As we kick off season 17 on the show in front of a beautiful studio audience, and today we're celebrating change. Though we hear it all the time, change is hard. I think especially this time of year, right? With kids going back to school, you've got older children moving out, vacations with the grandkids are coming to an end. Every woman experiences a shift in dynamics at some point. And while change is heavy, my next guest believes it can also be happy. We may just need a new perspective. We're calling on Studio 5 friend Kelly Jensen to help us do just that and find joy despite the change. Everybody, welcome Kelly Jensen to season 17. You are the perfect person for this, and this topic speaks to women on so many different levels because our life situations are always changing. It was one thing I didn't anticipate as a mom because as a kid, it's summer school, summer school, summer school. As a mom, as a woman, it's a constant evolution.
It is. It is, and I think that that's one of the tricky things about change is it's ever coming at you, and I think the hard thing is there's no right way to deal with it, right? We're dealing with it with our own personalities and our perspectives and our triggers. And so I think what I want to talk about today is a little bit about not having those expectations of exactly how you should find joy, but instead broadening our perspective so we can be a little more compassionate to ourselves and others as we deal with these waves of change.
I love that. People follow you on Instagram, Kelly, for, in part, the positive way in which you manage life's ups and downs. As your friend, I will say, you are not exempt to challenges, to hard changes too.
Right. You're right about that, and I hope that I've learned something. Although the older I get, I really feel like the less I know. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I definitely feel that way. But one thing I know for sure is that change is so personal. And when we listen to the experts or the noise, they tell us to lean in, to sweep it under the rug, to talk about it, to tell everybody. And that doesn't always work for us. And when things don't work for us, it makes us feel a little more isolated and harder to deal with that change. And it reminds me of one of the biggest challenges I've had in my life is my struggle to build my family. I had multiple miscarriages. And I did everything right. I waited till 12 weeks, to tell anybody, but then I found that after I had that loss, I had to untell people, and I had to manage other people's opinions and expectations. And then I had another miscarriage and another miscarriage, and by the third or fourth, I realized that a soft wind could have blown me over. I didn't have what it took to manage that change and also manage other people's expectations. So I started gathering myself up and just quietly with my husband and maybe my mom, I started dealing with that change, and that's what gave me the courage to keep trying. We ended up having 7 miscarriages, but what helped me is not listening to what everybody else was saying, not announcing it to everyone, but keeping that in. But I also know that some people, when they have miscarriages, they need that village. They need people to come for them and support them, and that strengthens them. So the truth is, you have to find what works for you. You have to listen to that.
Permission to do it your way.
Absolutely.
Which, you're right, in this world of talk it out, share it, it's okay to stabilize yourself or strengthen yourself quietly.
I think so.
I love that.
I think so, yeah. And there are so many times when change is more out there in the open and you don't have the opportunity to keep that to yourself. And that could be, many of us are dealing with kids going to school right now or kids going to college. Could also be something like a divorce or something like a loss. Those things are just hard. Sometimes we don't want to find the happy. We don't want to move on like people tell us to do. And we also need to realize that not all change that is out in the open is visible to us. What about those of us that envisioned a life that no matter how hard we tried for that doesn't come to fruition? Maybe we wanted to get married. Maybe we wanted to have that family. Maybe it's a promotion, a home. We're suffering that silently. And it reminds me of my husband, actually, because he worked his entire life to play in the NFL. And he had a super successful college career, Division I school. He's on all the record boards. He won all the awards. And he made it to the NFL. And within that first year, he had an injury. And he rehabbed that injury, and he worked so hard, he did everything right. But by the third year, that injury took hold, and he felt a snap, and he knew that the doctors weren't going to clear him. And it's not a typical case where the average NFL player, they play 3 years. He was a kicker, so that has longevity, like 20 years.
Yeah.
He expected to retire from that. He was suffering that out in the open, and I think it reminds me that there are so many people that are working their whole life for something.
Yeah.
And they don't have that opportunity to gather their village or announce it.
Right, right.
And so sometimes we just need a hug. Especially, that reminds me, with our kids going to school and things like that. We're giving these kids, we imagine they'll play sports and I'll go to their games. Maybe they just like video games. It can be as simple as that. Some of them are struggling with different things like mental health.
Sure.
Some of them are struggling in school. And it's not what we had planned for them, not our ambitions for them.
Yeah.
And how do we deal with that? It's okay to mourn those things that never were.
While we do, Kelly, you encourage us, and give me a quick line on this, if you will, to express gratitude along the way. And that made me think of, change can sometimes be associated with grief. Sherry Dew once described grief as enhanced gratitude, which I loved. Really quickly, how does gratitude help us in these hard moments?
I think even when my body was failing me and I was having those miscarriages, I remember thinking, I am so grateful to have a marriage I want to bring a baby home to. I remember stuffing those feelings in my pocket. I'm so grateful that I feel like I could be a mom to this baby. Yeah. Stuffing those in my pockets, because you're going to need those. There are more waves of change coming, and you don't want to sit in one change too long, or the next wave
will knock you over. You want us to find our safe place. I think you've described that so beautifully. And finally, add something good to your life.
For every loss you have, for every child going away, plan an hour phone call with that college kid on a Monday night. Your safe place could be your kitchen floor. It could be therapy. It could be wherever. And also adding to that space something like a new hobby, a girlfriend chat, but plan that out so you can start elbowing out room to find that space for perspective and joy within your hard changes.
She is one of our favorite girlfriends for good reason. Kelly Jensen, everybody. Fantastic advice. Thank you so much. Navigating the change when it's hard.